Good evening, everyone. Actor and dancer Sudhaa Chandran recently put up a post about her humiliating experience at an airport. Today on Table Talk, I am asking, are the differently abled, the travelers, are they humiliated? Is there any dignity in their travel? Join me with your experiences, your feedback, your comments, anything that you want to share with us, because I've got two wonderful guests who will be joining in just a moment. Quickly, while I just pin up what we're going to speak about today. Just bear with me as I quickly do this. Like I said, we are speaking about dignity for the differently abled traveler. Would love to hear your comments, whether you agree or disagree. It's a slightly longer title, but I cannot, because I'm going really fast, Mansi. I'm going to join you, just going to add you guys to this as soon as, okay, let me add you first and then we can take this conversation. Hold on, Mansi, I see you. Let's do, and let me see how that looks. Hi, Mansi.
Hi, Jyotsna. How are
How are
you?
you? I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I will just see if Suranjana has joined. Yes, I see her as well.
A lot of people are joining. People are writing, hi, Mansi. Joshi ma'am, okay, hi.
You are a star. I always said you are a star.
Thank you, Jyotsna, for having me.
No, I'm always, it's always my pleasure to have you. You speak for a lot of people when you join us, Mansi, and it's never about you. But I did get you. Hi, Suranjana.
Hi Jyotsna, hi Mansi.
Hi, Suranjana. So nice to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
Okay, so I am going to quickly just pin this up so everybody just gets a sense of what we're speaking about today. And when I try and do this fast, I'm always making mistakes, so please bear with me for just a second, guys. I will try not to make a mistake this time. And I hope I have got this right. See, again, there's when I hurry and write these things, there's always a mistake. I'll write it and while you guys are talking, so I'm not going to waste your time, Suranjana and Mansi. Thank you both very much for joining me today on Table Talk. An absolute pleasure, and I'm really delighted that you guys are on board to try and spread awareness that has again come into the spotlight with what actor and dancer Sudhaa Chandran went through recently. And it's terrible. It's actually it's horrible what she's gone through. But let me just introduce the two of you as well. Mansi Joshi, para badminton champion, world #2, also by the BBC in 2020, amongst the 100 most inspiring and powerful women. Always a pleasure, Mansi. And Suranjana, good to have you on the platform for the first time, hopefully not the last. And Suranjana, of course, has done intensive work with the CISF in sensitizing them at airports, but she is also an international social impact strategist as well as a motivational speaker. My absolute pleasure, ladies, as I said, to have you both on Table Talk. Mansi, let me begin by speaking to you, by asking you, what was your reaction when you read that post by Chandran?
So when I saw her video for the first time a few days back, I was little shocked, but I felt as if it has become like a norm. And we have experienced this before. It's not the first time we are hearing And unfortunately, it's not the first time we are hearing. And you feel as if, like, of course, security of the country comes first, and we completely appreciate that CISF is doing great work in making sure our airports are safe and secure. And in last few years, there have been no report of any issues because of the secure or any security lapse. And I think it's important that security is doing great job. But I think the sensitization is really important. And this is the reason why we as people with disability have to always face difficulty, especially when we are making or going past through the airport. And trust me, like as a frequent traveler, I have switched to wearing shorts or skirt or something which is easy to lift or something easy to show, which I don't know, not many people like. I think people only plan their clothes during their periods. I think for us, we have to plan for every travel, and I think nobody should be planning what they wear, what should be their airport look, which is so popular. For us, our airport look has to be shorts or something. Where for us, security, we have to be very responsible and kind to security to tell them that oh yeah, this is because of an accident. People generally ask, why are you wearing a prosthetic? Are you born with it? Like small talks, and we are the ones who will be doing those small talks with the officials there, and we're like, yeah, this is what. And sometimes we don't want to do those small talks, but yeah, I mean, when I heard about what Sudhaa Chandran faced, I felt as if she is the one who we all like since school. I've read her chapter in our books, and I was like, yes, she's so inspiring, and this is what we wanted to be. And to go through such humiliation of this national icon, I think nobody should be facing this. And if she's speaking about it, I think right time we start hearing and making amends.
Absolutely. I did have a word with her. She's shooting in Hyderabad, so she was not able to join, but she did promise me that once she's finished with the shoot, she will speak about it on Table Talk. Mansi, before I go to Suranjana, just tell me, have you been through a similar experience, and what is it like if you have?
Yeah, of course, I've been through similar. There have been times where I'm reduced to crying at the airport, and it's really humiliating because you actually have to strip. You have to show your prosthetic. To see, right now there have been some huge changes, and I remember first time when I heard. I mean, Suranjana had made an issue. I mean, Suranjana had actually spoken about it, and I heard it, I read it, and I was like, yes, yes, at least somebody was speaking up. At that time, I was very new amputee, and for me, I thought this is how it's going to be, and I will have to deal with it as like little if it is in dignity, this is how it's going to be. But when I heard or when I saw Suranjana speaking about it, and people like it was headlines, it was everywhere. And when I saw that, I thought, yes, there are people speaking about it, and I should also be the one speaking about it. So the first time just my experience this was in 2012. My first trip to my first flight. I'll be very honest that I'm privileged to actually use an airport. Use a flight. I go through airport security. Like it's a privilege to travel by air, and I mean, I'll think twice or thrice before booking a train ticket because of the inaccessibility associated to railways. But 2012, I'll tell you this really, like truth. This was my first travel. The only identity card that we could carry in those days. We didn't have Aadhaar card at that time. The only identity card I could carry was my either passport or my driving license. And after my accident, I just discarded my driving license, and I was in no way thinking that I could travel with my passport. I thought it's too important of a document to travel with. I don't know what happened. I was traveling from office and I forgot my ID card. I only had one identity which had photo in it. That was my bus pass, which was handwritten with my name and my route. That is the only ID I have. And I go into the airport with that ID, and I'm like, I'm screwed. I won't be able to travel. My first trip is over. And I showed that ID to CISF, and they are like, you can pass. And then they go into the security check and they ask me to take off my prosthesis. It's screened through the luggage, and I felt completely humiliated because I was wearing kurta pajama. I had to take off my pajama and take off my prosthesis, take off my shoes, everything, sit somewhere, ask for a chair, and I felt, oh no, this is too much to travel, to go through every time if I'm going to travel. And at that time I didn't cry. I didn't feel like, I felt this is how it's going to be. But then every time I went through security checks at that time, I was reduced to stripping. And I used to get angry. And a few years back, even I was a sports person. People were appreciating my wins. I was a, 2016, 17, people were, I was empowered through sports and still had to face the same thing. And at that time, I was like, this is too much. I cried at the airport. And since then, I've been writing in the register that this is, I can't deal with it. You have to do something about it. And over the years, people like Suranjana Antar and so many other activities have been speaking about it and telling the world that this is not how we should be searched. If 30 seconds is the time somebody else is getting screened, that is the same time I should be getting screened. Still, we'll give you that time, we'll be kind to you, will completely appreciate your job and give you everything. But please do not rate, like, it's not all on us. The security or being kind to people. People say, अरे आपको डील करना पड़ेगा नेशनल सिक्योरिटी. अरे क्यों हम डील करें भाई, बहुत लोग हैं करने के लिए. बॉडी स्कैनर्स लेके आओ, डालो उसको गेट पर और बोलो पास होने के लिए. हमारे लिए स्पेशल रूम बना दिए हैं. बट to go to a room, every time I travel for a tournament, I have to go to a separate room, take off my prosthesis, show it to them that, hey, this is what it is. Hope it's okay. Hope it will pass through security. So yeah, it's too much sometimes.
I'm sure. I think it sounds too much for most of the times, not just sometimes. So Suranjana, why is it not the protocol to ask an amputee to take off their prosthetic while traveling, while at an airport? Is it the protocol?
Well, it isn't the protocol because a prosthetic leg operates pretty much like the leg we've lost. Not pretty much, it is exactly the leg we've lost. It's a leg that fills in for what we don't have, and while we've lost our limb, we haven't really lost our right to dignity. And Mansi makes a very important point. It's not asking to be frisked with dignity at the cost of national security. So there is a way to work with the authorities on this, and that's exactly what I had appealed for. In 2011, I was stripped down to my underpants in the New Delhi airport. And it was extremely humiliating. I used to work for a large media corporation. I had all my ID on me. I'd already been an amputee for several years. I'd flown overseas several times. I'd never encountered this kind of very humiliating screening. It was like a deep violation of my, of myself. And I remember the female officers who stripped me also said, I was in tears. I was begging them with folded hands to let me get back into my trousers. Within seconds from a dignified, executive who was traveling on work, I was reduced to a spectacle. And I was told that अगर आपके साथ ऐसा नहीं करते तो कैसे पता चलता कि आप terrorist नहीं हैं. And I have to tell you that I was so shaken. I had never encountered anything like this. And I actually didn't raise an issue about it. That was 2011, exactly 10 years ago. I came back, it actually took me a couple of days to talk about it, even with my friends and family. And ever since that time, I started traveling with my heart in my mouth, not knowing what every episode was going to be like. Till in 2013, things came to a head where I was flying out of Mumbai airport and I was asked to remove the leg and chuck in, the prosthetic leg into baggage X-ray. Now, I'm an above-knee amputee, just like Mansi is. And I need to explain what the structure of an above-knee amputee's life is like, just so that we can all appreciate that this is definitely not something that should be asked of us in public places. And even if you create a special room, this can't be the protocol. So the above-knee prosthesis fits us right up till our groin. It's exactly at our panty line. And if you ask us to show you what the leg looks like, the entirety of the leg, then we are literally stripped down to our underpants. Now, as women, I know that people like Mansi and I have really changed the way we dress when we fly. I also wear things that I can lift up. I wear trousers, or I wear really broad things that I can, I wear skirts that I can lift up. And gentlemen, amputees can't do that. So that's inconvenient for them. If you remove the leg, and a lot of us don't walk with a mobility aid like crutches or a walking stick because we are very acclimatized to using the prosthetic leg just like, able-bodied people are. So if you remove it, we're left absolutely helpless. We're left with a serious violation of our dignity. And there is a better way of doing it, which is the ETD test, which is the electronic trace detector test. This is what is done internationally. There's always hand frisking done, which we are absolutely okay with doing. And 8 years ago, when I took this issue on social media and then on national media, this is exactly what my ask was, that if I am not subjected to this kind of screening in other countries, why am I being subjected to this in my country? And I'm willing to work with the security authorities. Let me show you what this looks like. It's not about me trying to be difficult. It's really me trying to give voice to many other people like me, because I can't be an exception. And that's what I realized. When I actually gave up my anonymity to talk about it, I realized this was not the problem of a single person. This was the problem of a lot of people. And I remember on social media, there were comments like, oh, it's a first world problem in a third world country. Then when people like Mansi and I, who wear very expensive, sophisticated prosthetic legs, are asked to remove it, we're not entirely sure how well our limbs are being used or, thrown around. And one component that can actually get broken will be very expensive for us to replace. And we can't actually go back to the airport authorities to ask for a replacement. The thing that has worked is to actually speak with other countries in terms of their screening protocols. And in 2013 and 2014, I worked with various other people from the disability fraternity to actually create an SOP for the CISF, which is the Central Industrial Security Force, to tell them that asking us to strip cannot be the first step. Please do an ETD. If that doesn't satisfy you, then you may take us to an isolated place, to a covered place where there's privacy, and then remove it, but do not put it into the baggage X-ray. So these were some of our suggestions, and that's why it's not the protocol, because it violates our dignity, and secondly, it leaves us without any kind of support because we are heavily dependent on that leg for our mobility.
But were any of your recommendations taken into consideration? It doesn't seem so, right?
Well, that's the unfortunate bit. Sorry, Mansi. When I came across, Sudhaa Chandran's video, I was really shocked because I've actually not experienced anything this dramatic in the last few years. Having said that, I think I'm relatively known to the authorities, but the odd incident definitely occurs. It's also quite common for us to be at the receiving end of small talk, which I can kind of shrug off, which is like, ek hi tang hai, ya dono gaye hai, and I'm like, buy one get one free ka offer nahi tha, ek hi gaya, thankfully. But it's stuff like that, aapki shaadi hui hai ki nahi, how can a one-leg woman be married? And then I'd be like, kyun koi acha ladka hai kya aapki nazar mein, to bataiye. But some of these recommendations, and especially to treat us, not have this kind of conversation, right? Actually ask us if we need assistance, would be like a chair to sit on while they're checking us. These were many of the recommendations that we made. They were all taken into consideration at that point in time. This is my guess, and I could be mistaken. I have a feeling that the top brass, as it happens in all official organizations, has changed. There is a level of sensitization that can't be done in 2013 and 14, and then, you kind of imagine that the next generation of officers that comes in also knows what to do. So that sensitization needs to be a regular practice so that we can avoid situations like this. If it's happened to Sudhaa ji, who is a very well-known face, just think of what happens to people like us.
Mansi, what's your take on this?
I have definitely seen change. Except for the small talk that we have to go through, I think I have seen change where, of course, we have changed the way we dress, but definitely the way we are getting screened has also changed. There's more of sensitization, but I think not everybody is sensitized, or maybe some officers have maybe skipped the session or something, we don't know. But we do see change at most of the major airports, and people are considerate, kind. They give you a chair to sit on. They ask you to show, to lift, and they do so first is hand frisking that they do, then they do ETD, that is explosive detector, trace detector, And if they feel that, maybe if it's 15th August or 26th Jan or some important days which are which are on radar, those days, if we're traveling, then we do have to go through something which is stricter. In the name of course, the country's security, and we are happy to do it. Like we don't want to act difficult with the security officials because we do believe, but every time we shouldn't be subjected, and that's why we feel that there are many different ways in which we can be screened. And if Sudhaa Chandran ma'am has faced this, as Suranjana said, then imagine how what other people must be facing with amputation or limb loss.
Of course. So in your opinion, the body scanners, what are the alternatives to, not compromising the security, not keeping your dignity, which is absolutely important? Do these separate rooms that you mentioned about, do they work? Uh, Mansi, then Suranjana
Okay.
after that, both of you.
I think yeah, body scanners work for me. I mean, I with so much of what we have, like people say that body scanners may dignity chala jayega, and we can see the whole like body structure and all. But I don't know. I mean, for me, I really don't care of what people see in that scanner. I really wish that there are body scanners. Our airports are super funded. Most of the biggest organizations like Adani or GVK or some biggest organizations are taking care of the airports, and they are the ones who should be providing body scanners or any such equipments at the airport. And I have actually raised this issue with CISF when, it's great when CISF officials, they invite you for maybe say um, an event, or I was asked invited in 2016 for one football, like under FIFA football under 16 cup. And at that time also I'd raised, and I've been raising this issue multiple times, that we understand you're doing a great job, but what can you do to support us? And they're like, six scanners और वो हमारे हाथ में नहीं है, वो airports हमें देना चाहिए. But so then airport should be providing it, and let there be two scanners if you feel like that that dignity is lost or something. Let us pass through that, but do not subject us to go to another. Like, do not segregate us by going into another room. Let our screening process be as faster or quicker like anybody else, because you know what, I reach airport way ahead of time than everybody else, because I know that in my security, I will be spending more time. People say you are allowed to skip the queue, but do we really skip the queue every time? No, we always follow the queue. We don't even feel like skipping the queue. We want to be like everyone else. So we take that extra effort, and again I say it shouldn't fall on us.
Suranjana?
So I agree with Mansi's points. I think even the idea of being taken into a separate room is really not the way to be treated. The body scanner, honestly, is just a silhouette. I mean, we encounter these in airports overseas, whether in the US or the UK. And honestly, for the cost of, the same cost that we'd incur probably for carpeting each of these gigantic airports that we now have, can probably bring in a body scanner or two in at least the major metros. And there's been enough conversation actually about this, and several years back, I think it was almost ready to be installed in Delhi and Bombay at least, and I have no idea what happened to that. And there were concerns about radiation, but honestly, it's literally like a fraction of a few seconds. It shouldn't matter, and it would really be a lot less of a hassle when we travel.
Correct. But they also say that body scanners. They also say that body scanners may people who use wheelchair cannot pass through, or they don't, because you require like complete hands and legs apart to be scanned. So it's like there can be more inclusive approach. I am not an expert in this area, so I don't know if I'll be the right person to comment over here. And I think the disability rights activists are doing some great work in this space where they are sensitizing. I, as a user, are we're just a voice saying that these are the issues that we've been facing. And I think people like Suranjana, she's worked in this space. There are people who have been speaking about this, and they're doing it so well. I think bring us experts and ask them to do some changes We need dignity while we travel. Again, we said because we are privileged, we're able to travel through air. We don't even know what happens when, like, we travel through railways or roadways. But at least, yeah, we're speaking about it.
And is there is a different reception to somebody, who's got their leg amputated versus somebody who's got a hand prosthetic, an arm prosthetic at the airport, Suranjana?
Honestly, I wouldn't really know, but I do feel that sometimes, and especially people who are very well adjusted to the prosthetic leg, don't really present as your standard idea of somebody with disability. And that's also probably something that is a visual challenge for, officers. If you present yourself with a very obvious disability, you are kind of treated a little differently for sure. If you appear to be confident, very much in control of your life, with full agency, it does throw a few officers off. I've seen a change in the last few years. They're a lot more sensitive now. They're very polite. But in the earlier days, they would actually take it as a bit of a challenge if you told them, no, I'm not going to take my leg off. I mean, I've faced that. I've been spoken to very rudely because I refused to take the leg off. It was almost like, how can this woman with a disability present in this fashion? She needs to be bechari. She needs to, look like she needs help.
Right, and I don't know about you, Suranjana, but I have seen Mansi's fitness regime, and I think she can take them all down to the mat with the way she trains. And she's going to let them. They're all going to be huffing and puffing right behind her. She's that good. I mean, I've seen her, and I keep getting inspired. Mansi, I still have those videos of yours from the pandemic where you're
Yeah.
exercising, and I'm possibly eating and watching you exercise. So it's brilliant. But Suranjana, tell me. So what more can we do to sensitize? And it's not just about sensitizing CISF, is it? I mean, it's also about the people around us, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure, do you feel like everybody's watching you at the airport?
Well, people watch when you limp, and people nudge each other and try and figure out what's wrong when you limp or when I limp. And it's something that I've been trying to get used to for 24 years. That's how long I've been an amputee. And I was very young when I lost my leg, just like Mansi was. And it's very hard to cope with that because this is an acquired disability, right? It's not something that we were born with, and I'm not making comparisons saying that an acquired disability is better or worse than something that's congenital. A disability is a disability, and everybody's trying their level best to deal with it, and people around, because of their attitudes and perceptions, only make it harder. But it's in examples like Mansi's or in examples like Sudhaji's, which I think people need to not just look at them as inspiring heroes and, just write comments on their social media posts, but actually bring about that change even in the way they look at people with disability. Look at people who are not as famous as them. Look at people who are not poster boys and poster girls who are, people with disability. You can be someone living a very normal life and you want to be treated as someone able-bodied and normal, but you're not treated like that. You're constantly at every level in a country that's hugely inaccessible like ours. At every step you're made to feel not equal. So that's where you make a very valid point, Jyotsna. I mean, attitudes and perceptions and change in that really needs to be larger at a societal level rather than just the CISF, which is a procedural change.
Mansi, is that something that you feel as well? I mean, as a society, even in the restaurants and, small places which should have been accessible, which is a given in the Western world, is still not there in our country.
Correct, but it's not there because people are not following the building code, or the newer complexes are not. I do see change in the newer complexes, but then if you see Mumbai, I was a resident of Mumbai, and 90% of Mumbai is inaccessible. If I want to go to a cafe, and if I say, is your cafe disabled friendly? So they say, yeah, we have only few steps. So how can that be disabled friendly? So that is what needs to change. I think there are a few startups who are doing great work in making places accessible, but then there are very few. And I think we need to make even our apps, like how many people say that every app is accessible. So we don't have newer startups with an approach which is completely accessible. And unless we keep on shouting at the top of our voice saying that this is what we require, people are not going to change. And I wish that there are more and more places that are accessible that I don't have to go. Just in today's session, I told one in evening that how very early on I found inclusion where my first temple visit and at that time I just learned how to walk and I was allowed to get into a temple wearing shoes saying that oh your shoes is just made of rubber and cloth. Ramji wears paduka and goes to temple, or so many people wear paduka and go to temple. So you definitely can go and wear go with your shoes on. These were the progressive temple authorities, and now I don't even go to temples. I asked Suranjana one day that how she was posting puja pictures of during Navratri, and I asked her, "Do you visit? Do you go every time?" And she told me that like Suranjana, you only said
Haven't been to a
Suranjana?
temple in 24 years because, well, I can't go in with my footwear and we can't walk without our footwear because, the feet are expensive components and they get ruined if you walk on, rough surfaces without any footwear on.
So you see inclusion in the beginning and then now you have to face exclusion every time or segregation. This is not what we want. So definitely a lot needs to change. And I think such conversations can help more and more sensitization, at least to people who are listening. And yeah.
So would help come from people who are well known, the celebrities? Do they speak up about your issues? Would that help if they did, Suranjana?
Honestly, I feel, celebrity endorsement of anything is only short-lived, and it really needs to come from a place of empathy and lived experience. The kind of lived experience that Mansi would have or I would have is very different from somebody, supporting it with either a hashtag or a repost. It needs to be something more long-term and more sustainable. It does need more united effort, even within the disability fraternity and the disability advocacy fraternity. And the government needs to work. It's not like they don't, but they do need to work, let's say, more consistently rather than whenever there is, a social media eruption or something that goes viral like Sudhaji's issue has.
So my final question to you, Suranjana, and I'll come to Mansi after that. Do you want to speak about how you can collaborate with the authorities in finding a solution?
I think every issue like this really, is actually a silver lining. I wouldn't look at it as only something that's terrible and that, we need to criticize. There's always scope for change, and the scope for change is where the authorities have taken note of this action. I mean, the fact that they issued an apology, and this would have definitely happened because she tagged the Prime Minister, she herself is somebody well known, that shows that there is intent in the right place. But that intent also needs to be converted to action. And for that, definitely more dialogue with people who are facing this issue, an ability to have a two-way conversation with, the authorities concerned, putting together more updated procedures, ensuring that the officers who are, the first line of contact with passengers do undergo this treatment or this kind of training so that we don't undergo this kind of harassment. Thanks.
Mansi, what would you like to say in the end, about the dignity of anybody, who's differently abled, who's traveling, who's even, going from day-to-day work? I mean, wanting to go to the grocery, can't go like Suranjana said, she can't go she hasn't been to a temple in 20 odd years. What would you like to say to the people about inclusion, about, the dignity of every human life?
I'll say if it does not include me, it does not include anyone at all. And that approach that this fits everyone, that won't work in a country as big as our country. And we need to make sure that, you said, like as we are all saying, that there is a lot of sensitization, but is there inclusion? If we are getting segregated, when in Mumbai, when we used to travel, we would always travel in women's compartment, and I always felt there was no need for me to travel in that compartment. but still for my safety purpose, I prefer segregation, but I don't want segregation. I want inclusion. I want to be traveling, but then is there safety? Is there security? And if we are able to give every passenger, be it rail, road, or air, everybody is able to travel, how everybody else is able to travel, then only we have included everyone. I think if the best example is metro. Metro has all the features. Your right from you land at the lift area till you get out from the metro, everything is accessible and it's universally accessible. Right from and there are no compartments for ladies. You just get in anywhere. There are seats reserved for disabled in every compartment. That is inclusion. And this is what we want to see.
Wonderfully said, both of you, Suranjana and Mansi. I don't think we need any celebrities to come and endorse what you're saying or speak for you. You girls are stars and rock stars in yourselves, going through. It's very, very inspiring what you're speaking about, and I hope that we can come back and talk more about this, and hopefully people are listening. Our attempt is also to just make whoever can listen, pass on the message as best as we can. But it was absolutely wonderful, Suranjana and Mansi, to get you on the show today, and I'm wishing you both the very best. I'm hoping that people have listened in, understood that dignity is for all of us or none of us. Honestly, there has to be no differentiation, and I mean, I'm hoping that the authorities will eventually come around to understanding what it means for differently able to be traveling, what it means as a society to keep looking, to keep nudging, as Suranjana said, to keep, whispering behind the back. It is inhuman. And I'm hoping that this episode kind of brings out a little bit of spotlight. I hope that our talk kind of brings out a little bit of, more conversations, because we can only attempt to continue these conversations to keep hammering that information home. And I hope to get you ladies again on this sometimes and on other happy topics as well. But for now, thank you so much, Suranjana and Mansi, for joining me today, and wishing you both the absolute very best.
Thank you, Jyotsna, for this conversation. Thank you, Surajna. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you, Jyotsna. It was a very important conversation. Thank you, Mansi.
Absolutely. Very, very important conversation. For anybody who's missed it, I just saw somebody who said we missed it. I will just upload this to IGTV, and this will be on YouTube as well on my channel, Jyotsna Mohan, in a day or two. And thank you very much, ladies. Very inspiring, this conversation. Please don't miss it. And tomorrow I will be back on Table Talk at 6 o'clock. We're talking a little bit of cricket. Till then, listen to this conversation again, and please pass this conversation around. It is very important. Thank you and goodbye.